Hey there, today I'd like to show you how to modify an Xbox controller for people with special physical needs. I'm going to be showing you how to add a port or an external button, a port for a switch or an external button. We're going to be using the Fusion by PowerA. These are officially supported by Xbox, which means that when you program them, to have the different buttons, you're not going to trigger any kind of anti-cheating software or anything like that. And the thing that I really like is that one of the features they have are these programmable buttons back here, these paddles. So you can program these to be any of the buttons, and that is wonderful. That's already an incredible accessibility feature. But I'm going to show you how to use that module to add plugs so that you could plug in your own switches or external buttons. Let's jump into it. If we crack open this external module, you can see that all that's inside is this little PCB with 4 buttons on it. That's all there is. There's no logic, no other components. That's great. This is going to be so easy to modify. The only downfall is there's not a lot of space here. So you need to decide if you want to maintain the original stock functionality of it or not. If you don't want to maintain the original stock functionality, you can just drill the top of the case to make space for big fat wires and solder right directly down into the top of this. And that will allow you to do things a little bit easier. I'm going to go another route. I'd like to maintain the original functionality of this so it can still be plugged in and you can still use the programmable paddles. So I'm going to be using extremely thin wire, and I worry a little bit that this extremely thin wire may not last as long in use as fatter wire. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. On the plus side, if it does die and get ruined, you've only lost the module and not your entire controller. And I believe you can buy replacement modules to put back in if your module happens to be ruined. So as you can see here on this PCB, you have these 4 buttons, and you need to solder right here and here to extend this. You just attach a wire to each of those, and whatever you attach on the end of that wire will basically be extending this button. Okay, so you can attach a mono headphone port if you want to use switches that are store-bought or that you already have, or you can actually solder up another button entirely directly to it. After you've soldered everything together, piece it back together. You're going to have to cut some holes so that your wires can go through the sides of the module. And then use hot glue to hold everything in place. But be careful that you don't get hot glue anywhere that's going to restrict the movement of those buttons as they are, if you're wanting to maintain functionality of those buttons. Put your screws back in, put everything together, reassemble it, and there you go. You've got a fully functional modified controller that has 4 ports for external switches like foot switches or anything like that. I hope you saw that this is much easier than you might have imagined it being. Really, if you can do basic soldering, you can modify a controller, and in this case, you don't even have to open up and risk damaging the controller itself. This is fantastic. Be sure to leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts.